Section 43. Mahamati Bodhisattva then asked the Buddha, Bhagavan, why is speech said to be eternal? The Buddha told Mahamati, because of delusion. Delusions also appear to the wise, but they aren't confused by them. Mahamati, such things as shimmering mirages, firebrands, strands of hair, cities of Gandharvas, illusions, dreams, and reflections confuse worldly people, but not the wise. It is not that these don't appear, Mahamati. All kinds of delusions appear, but it is not the case that delusions are not eternal. And how so? Because they neither exist nor do not exist. And how is it, Mahamati, that delusions neither exist nor do not exist? Because the realms of foolish beings are different. For example, because pretas see and do not see the Ganges, it does not exist as a delusion. But because it appears to others, it does not exist. Likewise, the wise are neither confused nor not confused by delusions. Thus, because their characteristics are not destroyed, delusions are eternal. Mahamate, it is not the different characteristics of delusions, but the characteristics of projections that are destroyed. Thus, delusions are eternal. And how is it, Mahamati, that delusions are real? For the reason that the wise do not give rise to the thought of being confused or the thought of not being confused by a delusion. Not only the wise, Mahamate, but if anyone gives rise to the slightest perception of a delusion, it does not qualify as Buddha knowledge. Mahamate, anything about its existence is the mistaken talk of fools and not the talk of the wise. Whether delusions are imagined as confusion or not, they give rise to two lineages, the lineage of fools and the lineage of the wise, with the lineage of the wise being further divided among a Shravaka path, a Pratyeka Buddha path, and a Buddha path. And how do the projections of the ignorant give rise to membership in the Shravaka path? Membership in the Shravaka path is the result of attachment to individual and shared characteristics. This is how projections give rise to membership in the Shravaka path. Mahamate, as for how the projections of delusion give rise to membership in the Pratyeka Buddha path, membership in the Pratyeka Buddha path is the result of attachment to aversion to the individual and shared characteristics of delusions. And as for the wise, and how delusions give rise to membership in the Buddha path, membership in the Buddha path is the result of the awareness of perceptions as nothing but one's own mind, of external existence as non-existent, and of the non-projection of characteristics. This is how delusions give rise to membership in the Buddha path. Meanwhile, when people misperceive the existence of different objects, this gives rise to membership in the lineage of fools. Maintaining that this object does not exist, or that object does not exist, this is what is meant by this lineage. But when delusions are not projected, Mahamate, the wise are able to transform the existences of the habit energy of the mind, the will, and consciousness, the modes of reality, and the dharmas into what is called suchness. Thus it is said, suchness is the mind set free. And to make it clearer, I say, to be free of projections means to be free of all projections. Mahamate asked the Buddha, Bhagavan, do delusions exist or not? The Buddha told Mahamate, they are like illusions. There is nothing to grasp. If a delusion had something that could be grasped, the existence of grasping would never cease, and dependent origination would amount to creation by causes and conditions, as claimed by followers of other paths. Mahamate asked the Buddha, if a delusion is like an illusion, can it serve as the cause of other delusions? The Buddha told Mahamate, an illusion is not the cause of a delusion, because it does not give rise to misperception. Mahamate, an illusion does not give rise to misperception because it does not involve projection. Mahamate, illusions are produced by magic and not by the habit energy of projections or misperceptions. Thus, they do not give rise to misperception. Mahamate, it is the minds of fools that become attached to delusions, not those of the wise. The Buddha then repeated the meaning of this in verse.
The wise don't see delusions with anything real inside them. If there was something real inside, delusions would be real. If delusions are abandoned and something should appear, it would be another delusion, a defect like a cataract.
Section 44. Moreover, Mahamate, in viewing everything as an illusion, if not for illusions, there would be nothing to compare things to. Mahamate said, Bhagavan, do you say things are illusory because of attachment to illusory characteristics, or because of attachment to something else? If everything that exists was illusory because of attachment to different illusory characteristics, Bhagavan, something would exist that wasn't illusory. And how so? Because the different characteristics of a form have no cause. Bhagavan, it is the appearance of the different uncaused characteristics of a form that is illusory. Therefore, Bhagavan, it isn't attachment to different illusory characteristics that makes things seem illusory. The Buddha told Mahamate, it isn't because of attachment to different illusory characteristics that makes everything seem illusory. Rather, Mahamate, it is because everything is unreal and vanishes as fast as lightning. This is why it is illusory. Like lightning, Mahamate, it appears but for a moment, and as soon as it appears, it disappears. But this is not how things appear to foolish people, who observe everything in terms of the individual and shared characteristics of their own projections. Since what doesn't exist doesn't appear, they remain attached to the characteristics of form. The Buddha then repeated the meaning of this in verse.
If not an illusion, what are things like? Thus are they called illusory. Unreal and transient as lightning, thus are they called illusory.